Welcome to this explainer. If you're a dance parent, you know that exact feeling. You're sitting there in the folding chair, watching your kid out on the floor, and you're just beaming with pride, right? But you're also a complete bundle of nerves, trying your absolute hardest not to accidentally choreograph the routine from the sidelines with your eyebrows. We all want our kids to succeed so badly, but how do we actually help them do that without driving them, and frankly ourselves, totally crazy?
Okay, let's dive into this. Is your support helping or hindering? It's a tough question, I know. But I really want you to reflect for a second on whether your well-meaning sideline behavior is truly supporting your child's process. As parents, it's literally our job to guide our kids, so the urge to jump in is huge. But we have to ask ourselves, are our actions actually creating a safe, encouraging space for them to grow, or are we unintentionally just adding to their stress?
Which brings us right to Section 1, the Dance Parent Dilemma. And honestly, the fascinating thing here is that the absolute most helpful approach a parent can take is often the least controlling one. It's really about supporting the process rather than trying to micromanage it.
And that healthy participation actually starts with clear boundaries. Before you do anything else, it is absolutely crucial to ask the instructor about their specific structural boundaries. We're talking attendance expectations, how much practice time is actually needed at home, the right costumes and attire, and how they prefer you communicate with them. When you understand these structural rules first, you can align your support perfectly with the class. You're backing up the teacher instead of, accidentally stepping on their toes.
Let's move right along to Section 2, praise effort, not performance. This is a big one.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it perfectly captures a major disconnect we often have. There's a huge gap between what we instinctively think our kids need to hear and what actually fuels their growth. Look at the stark contrast here. Praising the effort, like celebrating them showing up on time, actively trying a tough new combination, or really listening for corrections, that is incredibly powerful. Contrast that with praising the outcome, like their flexibility, their speed, or how much they impress the audience. When we focus on the effort side, we're helping our kids connect dance to their own personal progress, rather than making them constantly chase external approval.
Now, this doesn't mean you have to stay totally silent at home, but look at this exact script from the text. I saw you remember the arm shape. It's brilliant. When you give home feedback, keep it brief, keep it factual, and tie it directly to practice. This phrase does exactly that. It's a perfect example of how to support the teacher's work without filling your kid's head with competing instructions.
And that flows perfectly into Section 3, step back from the sidelines. Because while we just talked about the home environment, we really need to address behavior during the actual class.
The urge to jump in and help your kid when they're struggling on the floor is totally valid. We've all felt it, but the pitfalls of sideline coaching are actually pretty severe. Think about the logic here. If you're correcting their technique in real time or contradicting the instructor's guidance, you're putting your child in an impossible position. The source material points out that kids might literally freeze. They become terrified they'll do the wrong version, or they start relying entirely on you instead of actually learning from their teacher. It just completely undermines their confidence.
And please, whatever you do, avoid turning the dance class into a live report card. It is so incredibly easy to sit in those bleachers and start comparing your child's progress to their siblings or to their classmates, but doing that turns what should be a joyful, creative expression into immediate, heavy stress. Remember, these kids are still just trying to manage their own physical coordination and their nerves. The absolute last thing they need is a live report card broadcasted from the sidelines.
All right, let's jump into Section 4. Embrace the messy rehearsals. Let's talk about how to handle those inevitable middle-of-the-season frustrations and setbacks.
So the crucial point is how we actually reframe those mistakes. A messy rehearsal is not a failure, not at all. It is an essential learning opportunity where mistakes are a normalized, completely expected part of the skill-building process. Dance is a highly technical skill discipline. When you normalize making mistakes, you are giving your child the emotional support they need to feel safe enough to take risks and actually improve.
Of course, even when we do normalize those mistakes, anxiety is absolutely still going to pop up, especially right before a big audition or a major routine. The source gives us these exact physical steps to break down an anxious moment. First, have them take a deep breath. Just slow it down. Second, focus on one single cue. Strip away all the overwhelmingly complex details and just give them one thing to think about. And third, reset and try again. It's just a fantastic structured way to physically de-escalate panic right in the moment.
Now for our final section. Section 5. Keep dance a safe space. This is all about the car ride home and your living room. We want to ensure the home environment builds consistency, but without that intense, high-stakes pressure. Look at the difference here between healthy and harmful practice. Healthy practice at home means short, predictable routines. We're talking just a few minutes of safe, simple repetition, like doing some basic stretching or simply counting to the music. Contrast that with harmful practice, those long, grueling, intense sessions that will rapidly, absolutely lead to burnout and serious resistance from your child.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what we need to avoid: using fear or ultimatums. Phrases like, "If you don't nail it, you can't go to your friend's house," or worst of all, telling them "you embarrassed me." Linking dance to fear like that just makes children hide their problems. Keep the consequences entirely separate from their performance. Tie them to general respect or just showing up and being prepared instead.
Just a quick but super relevant warning for today's world. Be really cautious with social media clips. Posting a quick video of a routine might be fun to share with family, sure, but it can dramatically raise the pressure for kids who already feel like they're constantly being watched and evaluated. Putting them online for the world to see can really amplify that anxiety, so just be mindful of that.
Okay, let's move to and see how this builds into the big picture. When you protect your kids from unnecessary pressure, you're developing so much more than just a dancer who knows some choreography. The long-term results of steady parenting are amazing. You get increased resilience, you get deep self-belief, and you get a genuine, lasting love of the craft. To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question. 10 years from now, when the costumes are all packed away and the trophies are gathering dust, what kind of relationship with dance do you want your child to remember? Because the way you handle the sidelines today, that is exactly what is shaping their long-term relationship with the arts. Thanks so much for joining me today. Keep supporting those kids, and I'll catch you next time.